Hi buddy, Andy here again. Well, as you can see, the colour scheme different. I've actually been decorating, so hence the white instead of the old yellow, and that yellow had been there for more years than we care to remember, but a nice new white coat of paint which has certainly made this room a lot brighter than what it was. But anyway, I can get back into videos and I can get back into doing other things that I've not been able to do. One of those things that I've been doing is watching a few of the TV programs that I've recorded. As I said loads and loads of times, I don't watch a huge amount of TV, and what I do watch I tend to record and then watch it at my leisure, because it's usually on late at night or on other programs and other people are watching other things and things being recorded. You know how it is in families. But usually music related programs which maybe other people aren't particularly interested in. And a couple of things come together as per usual, and all these linking themes and something I read in a magazine. But I watched this morning a couple of documentaries, one about one of my sort of musical heroes, guitarist Richard Thompson, who's you know, just reminds you watching that stuff just how brilliant he is, songwriter but also guitarist. I'm not a guitarist, but I can appreciate a damn good musician, and I think I tweeted he must be one of the best, finest players ever to have picked up a guitar, you know, and influenced people like Mark Knopfler, whatever you think of him, you know, but that's where his style, a lot of it came from. But very influential obviously in the folk rock sort of thing as well. But the previous documentary that I watched before that was all about Fairport Convention themselves and how they got together in the history, because they've been going for sort of 40 years now, and you know, a whole load of music that they've brought. They changed the face of music in some ways by creating what we now call folk rock, but that isn't what I'm going to talk about. One of the aspects of that was how they got together and how bands used to do this back in the 60s. I suppose it was that sort of hippie idea where people would live on communes, or they would get together in a house or something and basically live together as a band in one place. And also how they actually started was in somebody's house, which was originally being rented out in, the house was called Fairport, hence they were convening in this house, Fairport Convention. There you go. And they used to meet in this house, effectively lived in this house, and spent a lot of time together, whether listening to music, playing music, just being together, having cups of tea and doing whatever stuff that they were doing at the time. But it was that amount of time that they put into that. It's a bit like the old Malcolm Gladwell thing, you know, you need 10,000 hours of things to actually get good at something. Maybe not quite the same, but there's an element of truth in that the amount of time that you spend together as a group, and it doesn't have to be a band, it can be lots of different things going on here, but with bands you get to know each other, musical differences, musical associations, you know, you sort of bounce off of each other, and that's how bands used to be formed in that particular time. And another sort of corresponding theme, I suppose, I read an article recently in a magazine, the now sadly defunct Word magazine, all about squatters and how squatting was sort of pivotal and very, very necessary for so many bands throughout history. Not so much now, obviously, because literally in the last couple of weeks they just passed a law in the UK banning squatting effectively, certainly under certain circumstances, and make of that what you will. I'm not going to go into the legalities of that, but when you read this particular article and you find out how people used to do this, especially in the 70s, and we're talking back to the sort of rock music era, but especially through the punk era and precursors to the punk era, people living in squats, especially in London, but in other places in the UK as well, and possibly further afield. People getting together and being brought together and living under one roof together and spending hours and hours together, talking, listening, playing, you know, and just chewing over things and devising things. People just don't seem to do that now for whatever reason. Maybe they can't because squatting's changed, you know. And people used to rent houses in the countryside, like Fairport Convention did when they produced their Legion Leaf album. They went away and they sat down and they started doing this. You know, they hired this place, or their manager did. People don't seem to do that in quite the same way. I'm sure people can correct me here, and there may be people who do that, but I don't think people spend as much time together. Having been involved with sort of some local bands and things like that as well, I've seen it from a smaller degree, I think. But maybe it's the way that things have changed now, you know, but people don't have the time. Maybe they don't have the opportunity to go away to places. The world is a different place. You can't squat now in certain places, so you can't get together in that respect. People stay at home longer, so therefore you can't go and rent a home or something like that, or find somewhere, you know, rent this place in the country and let's all go and get our heads together, man, all that sort of stuff. You just can't do that. People haven't got the money or the wherewithal because of the nature of the world. And also having a conversation with with someone the other day about this, and it all sort of ties up a bit with a project that I'm trying to get off the ground. Was that now, because the invention of things like this, social media, you know, all that, bands nowadays are concentrating so much more on their social media profiles, whether it be on YouTube, whether it be how many followers they got on Twitter, how many likes they got on Facebook, and how many plays they've got on Reverb Nation or SoundCloud or something. They're forgetting the basics. They're spending so much time doing that they're not actually sitting down, creating music, and actually sitting around and talking about it. I can remember doing this years and years ago. As I said, once again, to a very much lesser extent. I was a musician back then as well, but I was working, and there's another one of, you know, the problems. But now people are doing everything digitally. They're not actually in the same room together quite often, and it's never quite the same, I don't think. You don't spend the same amount of time. So, you know, a couple of things come together. I just wonder whether that has changed the face of music. And also, those guys back in the day, whether it be in the squats in the 70s, or whether it be the Fairport Conventions in the houses, or, you know, renting a farm or something like that and going away. I remember Traffic doing that as the band, famously doing that as well. And I know, as I said, I know there were so many other examples. That now, that all they did, and actually there was a quote in the Fairport Convention film about, at that time, you know, before they had fame and maybe a bit of fortune, I don't know, all they were interested in was having enough money to buy themselves a beer at the end of the week type of thing. Nowadays, the thing that's on people's mind, not everybody, but the thing that's on a lot of people's mind is success. That was never, yes, its success had come along to Fairport Convention and all these people squatting in places in the 70s. Also well and good, but now with the rise of, you know, the sort of celebrity culture and the X Factor and idol shows and all that type of thing, you know, the sort of jukebox karaoke stuff that we get on the TV, it's all about fame, it's all about success, it's all about celebrity. The music is taking a back seat, and that inevitably, I think, rubs off on new young musicians, or any musician, I suppose. There must be an element of that, hence the fact that people are spending so much time sorting out their online profiles at the expense, possibly, at the music, and not getting into the music and doing the research and all that sort of stuff, because there's a lot of music out there that you can listen to and learn a lot through. Anyway, I'll leave that there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, what you think. Maybe I'm talking complete rubbish, but I think there's at least an element of truth in there, but I sit to be corrected. Thanks for your time. I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.